The chamber of the High Council glittered like a cathedral built for arrogance. Light from 3 suns cascaded through diamond glass, turning the air into gold. 12 species stood upon the elevated dais, robes and carapaces reflecting their own perfection. Below them, the holographic seal of Earth rotated in quiet mockery, an ancient sphere of blue and green labeled Relic Species 12-9A.ARCHO, and Varix raised a taloned hand. The humans still occupy a registry slot. Remove it. His voice carried through the amphitheater's resonance field, smooth and absolute. Murmurs rippled. Laughter followed. Primitive carbon stock, hissed the Korath delegate. Still catalogued under sentient. They burned themselves centuries ago. They built combustion ships, another added. They typed messages. With fingers, even the broadcast drones paused to record the amusement. Billions across the core systems watched the spectacle, the ritual purge of a forgotten species. Varix's staff struck the floor once. Let it be resolved. Humanity is officially extinct. The council's seal turned crimson. Cheers followed. Then the laughter broke. A tremor rippled through the chamber floor. Subtle but unmistakable. Holo feeds flickered. The archivist's interface stuttered with noise, a burst of static so dense it cracked the sound filters. Sensor anomaly? Someone asked. The archivist frowned, adjusting filters. Unclear. Origin. Unregistered. The main display shifted. A point of distortion pulsed in deep space beyond mapped routes. Coordinates dissolving faster than they could stabilize. The AI interpreter stalled mid-translation. Vector? Varix demanded. 7-dimensional origin trace, replied the archivist slowly. Impossible signature, non-Euclidean curvature returning into real space. The chamber went silent. For centuries, the 7th dimension had been theoretically used in myth, a realm where collapsed civilizations whispered to ghosts of data. Now a signal pulsed through it, modulating an archaic human syntax. Do not approach. The message repeated twice, each iteration stronger. Communication arrays across 6 sectors received it simultaneously. The Volari console leaned forward, crest feathers dimming. A human encryption pattern? Confirmed. No human colonies remain. Varix snapped. Find the source. The chamber walls filled with holographic overlays, gravitational signatures. Quantum residue. Wavefronts folding upon themselves like mirrors bending light. The anomaly expanded from a pinprick to a sphere nearly 0 point, to astronomical units wide, oscillating in 7 harmonics. Then the spectrum bent backward. In one frame, the void was empty. In the next, it wasn't. A shape emerged, black hull, angular geometry, reflections of nothing. Its surface glowed with faint lattice veins, each trace shifting through dimensions like liquid glass, 70 kilometers long. Human registry code burned faintly along the side. TNS vigilant horizon. Gasps swept the chamber. Every broadcast line surged with panic traffic. Council fleets scrambled intercept orders within seconds, 10,000 ships aligning across sectors. They built a dimensional anchor, whispered the Korath observer. No species can, they just did. The Volari cut in. The holographic human emblem still spun at the center of the day's crimson. Marked extinct, the council hadn't yet realized the signal was not a threat. It was a warning. Varix leaned close to the main display, his reflection framed against the black vessel now moving toward system space. Contact it, he said. We'll demand surrender. His aide hesitated. Surrender, Archon. Of what? Of whatever still calls itself human. The holo feed zoomed tighter. The vessel's bow emitted no radiation, no exhaust, no heat. Yet its velocity climbed 12% light speed and rising. Beneath the chatter, a second transmission cut through, a human voice, male, calm, filtered through centuries of silence. We warned you once. The signal fractured sensors across 7 systems. Energy levels spiked. But the spectrum wasn't weaponized, it was mapping, scanning, learning. Every council warship caught in range reported the same thing. Hull resonance. Data siphoning. Control overridden for precisely 3.4 seconds. Then, stillness. In that quiet, something shifted deeper than fear. The galaxy had mocked ghosts. The ghosts had answered. Somewhere beyond the stars, the vigilant horizon unfurled its dimensional sails, folding light around its hull. The ship that should not exist turned toward inhabited space. its presence bending every law written since the dawn of propulsion. For the first time in millennia, the Council understood the meaning of a human warning, and in the void, the echo of its return kept pulsing. Do not approach. The first contact protocols began with ceremony and fear. 10,000 Council vessels aligned in concentric formation, silver crescents glittering against the dark. At their center, the distortion pulsed an irregular wound in space, expanding and contracting as if breathing. Archon Varric stood upon the command bridge of the flagship Celestial Prime, voice sharp over encrypted comms. Transmit universal greeting. All frequencies. Signals surged outward. 11 million data tones layered across the quantum spectrum. The distortion absorbed them all. No return ping. No reflection. Nothing. Repeat sequence, he ordered. The technicians obeyed. The result was identical. Perfect silence. Council doctrine dictated patience. Yet each minute deepened the unease. 3 systems away, observers tracked gravity waves oscillating in impossible harmonics. The readings were beautiful and horrifying, space flexing at right angles to itself. Then came the voice. It was not transmitted through comms. It arrived. Every ship, every bridge, every open channel filled with a single human phrase: flat, precise, absolute. Do not approach. The sound was neither loud nor distorted. It felt deliberate, as if the universe itself had spoken through translation. The comms officer stared at the data feed. There's no source vector. It originates everywhere. Varric folded his hands behind his back. Primitive mimicry, he said, too quickly. Trace it again. But the deeper the scans went, the less they found. The distortion contained no heat, no energy pattern, no bryonic residue. Only gravity, organized with intention. Across the fleet, tension became arrogance. Some captains laughed over open channels. Spectre games, one said. Old human myths, dimensional ghosts. Another ordered weapon locks for intimidation. Confident the anomaly was automated debris. At 03 for the standard. 3 intercept squadrons crossed the event perimeter. Their telemetry froze instantly. Engines throttled without command. Crew biosigns went flat for 2.1 seconds. Then resumed as though time had skipped. The Admiral on tactical whispered, "That's not a weapon. That's observation." The feed from the vigilant horizon appeared without invitation, raw, unfiltered, transmitted across gravity itself. A human figure stood in silhouette against dim console light, features obscured. Voice steady, "You were warned." Every fleet AI flagged the pattern as human vocal architecture. Baseline 21st century cadence. Probability of forgery, 0.003%. Varric's throat tightened. Respond. Identify yourself. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if hearing him directly. Identification irrelevant. You reached across dimensions for conquest. Withdraw. He gestured sharply. Continue transmission until we breached that distortion. Energy pulses rippled toward the anomaly. Scanner bursts, probing waves. Even quantum lances designed for interdimensional mapping. Each one vanished on contact. Then, for 4.6 seconds, all sensors across the sector inverted. Every measurement returned negative mass. Stars blinked from the tactical grid. Ships drifted by inertia alone when the readings normalized. New data filled the void, an exact 3's dimensional map of the Council fleet. Every vessel, every life sign, cataloged. The coordinates were transmitted back, annotated with human symbols, triangles, dashes, vector codes. "They're mapping us," murmured the science officer. Like a surgeon marking incisions, "Do not approach." The message returned, sharper this time. It carried beneath the spectrum of light itself, audible through hull plating. The sound made the metal hum like a living thing. One junior officer whispered, "That's not a threat. That's procedure." But procedure was lost to panic. Sub-commanders demanded retaliation. Varric demanded results. And 1,000 targeting locks glittered against the darkness. The vigilant horizon did not move. Instead, the distortion around it folded inward, forming 7 concentric rings of compressed light. Their rotation pattern matched theoretical models of 7D transit drives machines so complex. They were thought impossible. Impossible, Varric breathed. The Admiral beside him stared at the display. Then humanity learned to make the impossible routine. Static swallowed the channel. Every calm feed returned the same 3 words, cold and final. Final warning issued. Silence followed true silence. No radiation, no echo, no measurable existence beyond that phrase. Across the 10,000 ships of the Council, one by one, the laughter of the previous day died, and for the first time in the age of ascendancy, the galaxy realized that silence from Earth was not absence. It was choice. The order came with the calm certainty of arrogance. Fire, 10,000 ships obeyed. Energy lances crossed the void, weaving a lattice of pure light that could flay a moon. The beams converged on the anomaly, measured at 8.2 exawatts of combined output. For 3 full seconds, space itself glowed white. When the radiance faded, the distortion still pulsed unchanged dot on the tactical grid. Numbers scrolled faster than anyone could read. Reflectivity, 0%. Energy retention, 99.4%. The remainder dispersed as harmless background radiation. The vigilant horizon hadn't even shifted position. The silence on every bridge was absolute. Impossible, muttered the Valari consul. No material can, it's not material. The science officer interrupted, voice hollow. It's adaptive resonance. They're not blocking our fire. They're studying it. At that moment, every ship's targeting system froze. Streams of data began returning to the Council fleet, mirrored packets bouncing back along the exact beams they had fired. The energy had been reflected, but not as light. It returned as information. We're being scanned, said a technician. They're using our weapons as sensors. The holographic display on the Celestial Prime flooded with feed signatures, Council weapon frequencies, shield harmonics, reactor blueprints, all returned to sender, each marked with a small symbol at the bottom corner, 3 lines in a circle. Human script. A single word below it. Acknowledged. Panic rippled through the formation. Varix's command tone cracked for the first time. All ships randomize frequencies. Break pattern. Too late. The fleet's fire control EAs began to misfire. Every targeting reticle blinked red, then grayed out. Tagged system examined. Within seconds, the entire formation's offensive capability fell to diagnostic lock. The vigilant horizon had not retaliated, it had merely reached into their systems, learned everything, and returned it with corrections. They're teaching us how inefficient we are, whispered the admiral of the second ring. The anomaly flared again. Space folded inward, forming a sphere of compressed light that pulsed 7 times. Each pulse corresponded to one of the fleet's primary reactors, now destabilizing, not to detonate, but to recalibrate. When the oscillations ended, every ship's power output dropped by 0.6%. Not destruction, adjustment. The vigilant horizon was tuning their technology. A low hum filled the decks as hull plating vibrated under frequencies not yet cataloged. Sensors confirmed no attack, no casualties, just a quiet rewriting of the laws they thought they understood. Report damage, Varix demanded. None, Archon, came the reply. But they've renamed our fleet nodes. The designations now read Observed Pattern 1. A flicker cut across the main screen. The human vessel drifted closer just enough for its geometry to resolve fully. Hull angles rearranged in impossible symmetry, like reflections folding inward. The lattice veins brightened. Analysis complete, said the human voice, calm and toneless. Your energy yields are inefficient by 43%. Cease fire. Cease. Varix spat. We will correct you. He gestured toward the tactical officer. Kinetic launchers. Fire all slugs. Thousands of hypermass projectiles streaked toward the target. They slowed. Every trajectory bent mid-flight, halting 20 kilometers short. Suspended as if gravity itself had been edited. Demonstration complete, the voice said again. Contact acknowledged. Further aggression will not be permitted. The slugs, 2,117 of them, rotated in perfect unison, their orientation matching the Council fleet's vector alignment. Then they fired back. No explosion, no plasma, just kinetic return. Every slug stopped 1 meter from its assigned target, hanging motionless. Varix stared at the nearest, a tungsten cylinder the size of a transport bus, hovering outside the viewport. It didn't move. It waited. That stillness terrified him more than impact ever could. Why don't they finish us? Whispered the aide. Because said the admiral beside him, voice faint. "They're not here to win a battle. They're here to measure one." The vigilant horizon turned slowly, its outline flickering between dimensions. All around, the trapped slugs dissolved into light, scattering harmlessly into the dark. Then came the final transmission, low and calm, heard in every frequency of thought. "This concludes Phase 1. The distortion deepened. Stars bent toward it. Sensors logged a gravity surge equal to a small black hole, yet no pull was felt. The ship vanished again into folded dimensions, leaving only silence and the mathematical trace of its superiority for the Council. Silence had never been so loud. The stars blurred into motion. At first, the Council fleets thought it was interference, some gravitational distortion or lensing effect. But then their instruments confirmed the unthinkable. 70 human vessels, each emerging from the folded distortion, ignited propulsion signatures that no known drive could explain. Velocity markers unstable, reported the tactical AI aboard Celestial Prime. Acceleration registering 31 gravities and rising. 31. Not for seconds, not as a spike. Sustained. Every admiral watching the feed felt the same creeping paralysis. Even their fastest interceptors could not maintain 9G for more than 3 minutes without vaporizing their crews. Yet the Terran ships moved like predatory lines, each one locking into geometric precision. An array so tight it appeared as a single organism. The first formation shift occurred at timestamp +00:11. Council targeting networks collapsed. Instantly, thousands of active locks simply vanished as their predictive matrices failed to compute. Each time the algorithms recalculated, the Terran formations changed course. Fractional, elegant, mathematically intentional. Impossible, the Volari strategist whispered. They're flying through their own predictive models. They know what our systems will do. In the command pit of Vigilant Horizon, the human crews barely spoke. Only the captain's voice carried. Maintain doctrine parameters. 70 ships, synchronized delta arcs, 11.2 seconds per maneuver window. Confirm lock rotation, confirmed. Acceleration constant, 31 grams. Kinetic bias phase to ready, outside. The vacuum rippled from their wake. No plasma trails, no heat bloom, only micro-distortions, like reality adjusting around them. The Dominion's fleet AI struggled to cope. Every predictive lock demanded 10,000 terasicles of computation. Within 30 seconds, the central command node overheated, forcing manual oversight. Focus fire on leading vector. Varix shouted. 1,000 energy beams flared again, desperate and uncoordinated. Every shot missed. Some crossed into each other's trajectories, detonating in confusion. The Terran ships had already transitioned between 3 separate velocity planes maneuvers that violated known inertial law. Their doctrine was brutal in simplicity. Acceleration as armor. By the 2-minute mark, human ships had reached 0.08 c. Not a single one had deviated. Their spacing, exactly 12.4 kilometers apart, remained constant despite velocity shear. It was not formation flying. It was geometry executed as faith. Track residual ionization, suggested the Korath engineer. There isn't any, the AI replied. Their drives are folding motion itself. The Vigilant Horizon led the pack. Its hull shimmered between dimensions, edges vibrating in pulse with some invisible metronome. Around it, the other 69 ships pivoted into a perfect ring. Weapons cold, but charging silently. Within the human bridge, sensors displayed nothing but calm readouts. Acceleration sustained. Crew vitals green. Enemy grid failing at 93%. Proceed to grid collapse, said the captain. No counterfire authorization yet. At that command, the ring expanded outward like an iris opening. Each ship emitted microbursts of gravitational counterflex, synchronized to the Council's own sensor frequencies. Across 10,000 vessels, alarms erupted. Targeting feeds scrambled into white noise. Propulsion relays misread positional data. The entire Dominion battlenet drowned under a storm of false coordinates. In 11.2 seconds, the galaxy's most advanced targeting array ceased to exist. Archon, said the aide softly. They're rewriting our space. Varix gripped the railing so hard his talons cut through metal. Then we outgun them. Fire blind if we must. Blind fire it became. Pulses lanced the void wild, scattered, desperate. None found purchase. The human response was motion, not violence. The ring broke into twin spirals, their paths crossing like DNA strands of lightless metal. Each intersection triggered shockwaves of folded gravity, dispersing enemy fire and scattering ships kilometers off course without a single detonation. "Report casualties," ordered the council marshal. "None," came the answer. "They haven't attacked yet." That silence spoke louder than destruction. Humanity moved as if teaching a lesson. Every maneuver precise, measured, unhurried. For the Dominion, chaos. For humanity, rehearsal. The vigilant, her eyes transmitted a single status ping, no voice. Just code, acceleration doctrine. Complete. Time markers confirmed the maneuver's total duration, 11.2 seconds. The enemy's command lattice showed 100% tactical collapse. Every Dominion vessel drifted, blind, locked out of its own systems, while 70 Terran warships decelerated in perfect symmetry, 31 gravities down to zero. Without inertia shock, without casualties, the void itself seemed to pause, waiting for humanity's next line of code. Varix whispered into the silence, "If this is their defense," the aide finished the thought for him, "then what does their offense look like?" The order came without anger. Execute judgment strike. On the tactical grid, 70 Terran ships shifted formation, an expanding ring turning edge-on to the enemy. From a distance, they looked like a halo forged of darkness. Every vessel's rail batteries aligned on precise coordinates. No haste, no emotion. Only mathematics. The countdown began. Phase alignment locked. Kinetic yield, tungsten, 12.3 tons per slug. Firing sequence, 3,210 impacts. Duration, 321 seconds. The Dominion Armada stretched across half a light hour, 10,000 ships in layered crescents of silver. Most were still blind from the targeting collapse, but some had reinitialized sensors. They saw the halo brighten and misunderstood it as retreat. "Human propulsion spike detected," shouted a Korath officer. "They're running." The Archon smirked. "Cowards at last." He never saw the first projectile. No one did. Each slug traveled at 0.12 invisible until impact. The first wave hit at timestamp plus 0 minutes for seconds and to milliseconds. 4,000 Dominion ships vanished before their computers even registered incoming mass. No explosions, just disintegration. Hulls folded inward, erased by kinetic transfer that outmatched any plasma weapon. Sensors screamed. Artificial gravity across the entire front twisted out of calibration. The second wave struck. "Impact series to confirmed," reported a calm Terran voice. 11,800 hulls neutralized. No secondary detonations detected. The numbers scrolled in silence. For each impact, a data tag appeared on Terran monitors: ship name, registry, crew count. Confirmed timestamp. No triumph, just record keeping. Every death cataloged as evidence. The Dominion lines convulsed, trying to retreat. Too late. Tungsten rain fell again. Each slug passed through multiple targets before fragmenting into clouds of molten shards that carved through the next formation. Communications collapsed. Power relays failed. Ships collided, reactor flares igniting like dying suns. For 321 seconds, the galaxy watched destruction rendered into order. Terran kinetic warfare was not rage. It was accounting. On the bridge of the vigilant horizon, the human captain stood silent. Confirm final salvo integrity, all impacts verified. Civilian signatures untouched. Cease fire. The command echoed through the fleet. Railguns cooled. The glowing halo dimmed, its light fading back into the void. In that silence, the Dominion ships still intact drifted in chaotic orbits, engines dead. Communications fractured, command hierarchy gone. Across what was once an armada, only debris fields glittered. Sensor estimates confirmed, 11,800 vessels destroyed, 4,200 disabled. None vaporized beyond recovery. A broadcast channel opened across all frequencies. The human voice was steady, neither cruel nor kind. Combat log complete. You are witnesses. Stand down on the Celestial Prime. Varix trembled. They killed 11,000 ships in 5 minutes. No, whispered his aide. They ended them. The survivors tried to rally. Automated turrets fired blindly, missing every target. The Terran ships didn't respond. They only maneuvered between the wrecks, scanning for life. Tractor beams engaged. Escape pods were collected. Medical drones launched from the vigilant horizon, white spheres gliding among shattered hulls. "Why help them?" asked the human gunnery officer. "Because we can," the captain replied. The Dominion broadcast cut through static. "Terrans, cease your interference. You have violated, we have corrected," the captain answered. "You invaded a species that no longer wished to participate. You are now under ceasefire review. No threat, just procedure." The human fleet shifted again, aligning its surviving formation into parallel lanes. Scanners expanded across the sector, mapping debris fields, tagging every corpse with coordinates. No sound but the quiet hum of justice done cleanly. In the Dominion capital, 10 light-years away. Broadcast relays still played the raw feed, every impact, every timestamp. Billions watched as precision replaced myth. No one laughed anymore. The final line of data scrolled across every channel. Judgment strike completed, 11,800. Vessels neutralized in 321 seconds, 0 human losses. Then the human transmission ended, leaving a single line pulsing through the void. "We do not repeat lessons." The battlefield fell silent except for drifting metal. Wreckage spun in slow arcs, scattering light from a dozen dying reactors. Sensors registered no new weapons fire, only the faint electromagnetic murmur of human vessels. Shifting into recovery formation, across 70 Terran ships, railguns powered down. Hull plating retracted to reveal medical arrays, white-lit corridors, and docking hatches extending toward the wrecks. Broadcast relays opened wideband channels across every spectrum. "Ceasefire corridors are active. All surrendering vessels will be received." The voice carried no triumph, just procedure. Inside the command deck of the vigilant horizon, the captain watched the display of debris fields resolving into color-coded zones. Red for reactor instability, green for survivor density. Around him, the crew worked in silence. There were no cheers, no celebration. Just the sound of verification tones confirming that the killing had stopped. "Fleet tally complete," said the operations officer. 11,800 enemy hulls neutralized, 4,000 to 100 disabled. Approximately 190,000 survivors detected. "Authorize medical drones," the captain replied. White pods launched from bays beneath the human fleet, thousands of them, each trailing gentle arcs of blue ion light. They drifted toward the ruins, scanning for heat signatures and biological activity. The Dominion survivors stared at the approaching machines in disbelief. A captured broadcast from a Korath gunship came through, voice shaking. "They're helping us. The humans are helping us. Assistance is conditional." The human broadcast replied evenly. "Surrender your remaining weapons. Power down reactors. Evacuation will proceed without prejudice." The surviving admirals refused at first. Shame had no protocol. But when the Terran drones began patching breached hulls, transferring oxygen, and towing crippled vessels away from unstable debris, resistance collapsed faster than any weapon could force it. By R2, the human fleet had mapped every wounded ship within the sector. Coordinates appeared on Dominion comms, automatically corridors marked safe by encoded beacons. Any ship that stayed outside the lanes remained untouched. Inside one Dominion cruiser, a medic whispered to his dying commander. "They could have finished us. They already did," the commander replied. "Now they're showing us what that means." Back aboard the vigilant horizon, the crew monitored the corridors. Terran carriers extended docking arms, their exteriors refracting golden light against the void. Med bays flooded with unfamiliar colors: blue blood, crystal lungs, translucent skin, all treated with the same precision. "Casualty intake stabilized," said the medical director. "Cross-species compatibility maintained at 84%. No fatalities post-recovery." The captain nodded. "Transmit data to all survivors. Let them see it." Screens across the Dominion fleet flickered, showing Terran surgeons working alongside machines, voices calm and measured. Every broadcast carried the same overlay: "We do not kill prisoners. We repair what can be repaired." The phrase traveled faster than any ship. By the 4th hour, Council networks across 50 systems were transmitting fragments of it. Unwilling to believe but unable to deny. In the Council's capital chamber, Arch and Varix watched in silence as the feed played. The human captain's voice came through clearly, low and without emotion. Your fleets are broken. Your people are not. Withdraw. Rebuild. The laws of conquest are no longer valid. The Archon's talons clenched. They're dictating morality. No, murmured his aide. They're demonstrating it. Out among the stars, Terran ships shifted formation again, aligning in vertical rays. Their collective lights formed a corridor stretching half a light-hour an illuminated path, marking safe passage for evacuation ships. Every Dominion vessel that entered emerged unchallenged, escorted until clear. No demands, no vengeance. Onboard recorders logged the entire process, timestamps, survivor counts, med bay footage, evidence for history. As the final Dominion transport cleared the corridor, the Vigilant Horizon powered down its external arrays. The last transmission echoed across the sector. Ceasefire complete. Human command terminating active combat status. You are safe, and then silence. The wreckage drifted under starlight. No longer battlefield debris, but testimony. For the first time in centuries, a war had ended not with surrender, but with restraint. It was the measure of power the galaxy had never learned to respect until now. The truth did not surface through triumph, it arrived through silence. When the last Dominion ship limped beyond the ceasefire corridor, the Vigilant Horizon transmitted a single encrypted archive into the public net. No flourish, no signature, just a timestamp and the file name, Doctrine 7 Archive, Human Continuity Directive. The file spread faster than sensors could contain it. Within minutes, every major network across the Council systems was mirroring the data. For a galaxy conditioned to think of humans as extinct, it was a wound reopening under white light. The opening statement was clinical, almost bureaucratic. This record confirms that the withdrawal of the Terran species from known space designated the exile of 3184 was a voluntary strategic relocation. Purpose, preservation of civilian continuity. Estimated evacuees, 20,347,000. The attached footage shattered centuries of propaganda. Cold monochrome images showed the final days of old. Earth, ships lifting through stormed skies, orbital platforms crowded with refugees, and the slow ignition of phase drives large enough to swallow continents. The narration was calm, human, painfully rational. The galaxy chose dominance. We chose survival. Dominion historians had always taught that humanity had destroyed itself in internal wars. The footage refuted that with mathematical precision. Seismic data, launch telemetry, even trade manifests, every detail proved orchestration, not collapse. The so-called extinction was cover for evacuation. 20 million souls had vanished deliberately into the 7th dimension, space folded beyond the measurable universe, unreachable by any known drive. Their fleets did not die. They hid, they watched, they built. Archon Varix watched the broadcast from the Council chamber, expression unreadable. They disappeared to plan this? His aides swallowed hard. Not the strike, Archon. A doctrine, a principle. They prepared for return. Across the galaxy, more files decrypted themselves. Ship schematics, star maps marked with encrypted nodes, agricultural domes, atmospheric forges, fabrication rings orbiting dead suns. Each data block tagged with coordinates no system could translate. Spatial values, containing dimensional variables. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't been silent because it was defeated. It had been teaching itself to think beyond space. The final segment of the archive displayed a written doctrine. No author listed, dated 3 centuries prior. Doctrine of continuity. Power without conscience is extinction by another name. We retreat not to hide, but to preserve what power destroys. When we return, it will not be for conquest. It will be to set terms. The message was neither threat nor apology. It was a ledger entry closing itself. While the Council reeled, the Vigilant Horizon began transmitting humanitarian data to all neighboring sectors. Medical algorithms, propulsion safety templates, even blueprints for radiation shielding. The gesture was unmistakable. They're rebuilding us, whispered a Dominion engineer aboard a crippled frigate. The monsters from our stories are rebuilding us, on the bridge of the vigilant horizon. The captain watched the data dispersal patterns on his display. Each pulse of transmission mirrored one of the 7 harmonics that powered their drives, a subtle reminder that everything they did now existed in both dimensions. Transmission coverage? He asked. 89% of inhabited sectors reached. Counter-jamming ineffective. Good. The galaxy deserves its own reflection. Beneath his calm tone, even his crew understood the deeper reason for this revelation: deterrence by transparency. The most terrifying weapon in history wasn't secrecy, it was moral clarity armed with proof. News feeds across the core filled with images of human evacuation ships crossing through light fractures centuries ago. Refugees stepping into impossible corridors of glass. Children staring back through the dimensional veil as entire continents folded behind them. 20 million lives preserved not as victims, but as witnesses. The Dominion's propaganda shattered overnight. No one spoke of primitive humans again. The term relic vanished from state dictionaries within a day. In its place spread a quieter phrase, one found in the recovered doctrine's margins: "We left to become what mercy required." That line replayed endlessly across every feed, every system, not shouted, but whispered as though the galaxy feared to speak too loudly, while the architects of that mercy still listened. In the 7th dimension, the hidden fleets stirred again. Not to conquer, not to punish, but to prepare. The archive closed itself with a single digital seal, visible on all frequencies. A symbol burned in white across the void. 3 lines and a circle, the mark found on every battlefield, every wreck, every mercy corridor. The message beneath it read simply: humanity did not vanish. Humanity waited, and in that realization, every empire felt smaller. The ceasefire lasted 7 hours. Then came the reinforcements. They emerged from hyperspatial slipways in waves 30 to sectors deep. Banners of a dozen empires rallying under a single command. 28,000 ships, all burning for vengeance, all certain that the First Dominion fleet had simply been incompetent. At their center, the new Grand Marshal declared the order: annihilate the Terran anomaly. No corridor, no survivors. On board the vigilant horizon, the human captain only sighed. Record their numbers, he said. No preemption. We wait for first strike. The stars lit up again. Energy storms crossed the void, 10 times greater than the first battle. Radiation, particle beams, antimatter warheads all converged on a point already empty. Human ships were gone. Then, sensors flickered, 7 ghost signatures appearing behind the attackers. Another 9 above them. Dozens more materializing at impossible angles, bleeding into normal space from folds invisible to scanners. Within seconds, all 70 Terran vessels had surrounded the entire fleet formation. Engagement doctrine active, reported the AI. Target acquisition complete. Non-lethal parameters confirmed. Proceed. What followed was not war. It was disassembly. Kinetic lances fired with surgical precision, disabling reactors without detonations. Rail slugs pierced weapon mounts without touching life support. EMP webs spread like silent auroras, frying guidance systems while leaving med bays powered. For every 100 ships destroyed in a normal battle, humanity disabled 1,000. Impact count, 9,400 in first cycle, came the report. Fatality rate, under 0.7%. Each shot carried a timestamp, a location marker, and an identifying call tag, proof of restraint embedded in every impact. The fleet fought as a witness, not an aggressor. Across the Dominion channels, panic mixed with awe. There, choosing where not to hit, whispered one commander. The human ships never answered. They moved in coordinated arcs, each acceleration so precise that Dominion targeting couldn't even predict intent. At every intercept, enemy weapons melted harmlessly in their mounts. Detonators overridden mid-charge by microburst code injections. The second hour marked the breaking point. Terran pulses blanketed the sector in magnetic haze, rendering every hostile ship effectively blind. Then, instead of pressing the advantage, the humans stopped firing. Their formation shifted again, 70 ships forming a vast ring around the crippled armada. From that ring came a single broad-spectrum broadcast, audible through hull metal, comms, and even vacuum sensors. 6 hours. No further aggression required. But the reinforcements ignored it. In the third hour, they tried again. Random firing solutions. Missile storms launched without lock. Each weapon vanished mid-flight, swallowed by spatial folds that opened and closed like ripples on dark water. Kinetic Phase 3 complete, said the Terran AI. 20,000 vessels disabled. Zero structural disintegration. The Dominion's command ship attempted retreat. The Vigilant Horizon pivoted once. A tungsten slug severed its engines, precisely at the midpoint. Non-fatal. Total immobilization. Humanity's control of violence had become indistinguishable from divinity. By our 4. Resistance collapsed. Entire fleets drifted powerless, their crews staring into silent black hulls reflecting starlight. Those reflections shifted. The humans were still moving, repositioning in slow, deliberate ballet, sealing containment fields around every ship. "Why not destroy them?" asked the Terran gunnery chief quietly. The captain's answer was the same as before. "Because destruction proves nothing. Precision defines return." Our 5 passed without a single human casualty. Medical drones launched again, scanning disabled ships for injuries. Rescue beacons appeared beside enemy lifeboats. By the 6th hour, the battle had become a rescue operation. Final tally, reported the AI, 28,000 vessels disabled. Estimated 1.2 million survivors. No fatalities by Terran action. The captain closed his console. Transmit closure statement. A pulse crossed the void, synchronized across every communication band. Engagement concluded. You are not our enemies. You are participants in correction. Then the Terran ships powered down their weapons and drifted silently between the wrecks. The cosmic haze cleared, revealing a battlefield that no longer resembled war, just geometry, order, and mercy. For 6 hours, humanity had rewritten the meaning of victory. The galaxy would never again confuse restraint with weakness. The tribunal took place in orbit above the ruins of Elter Prime, the former seat of the Galactic Council. What had once been a world of marble towers and mirrored skylines now floated beneath a canopy of human ships, not as conquerors, but as witnesses. The council chambers had been rebuilt from debris, functional, stripped of luxury. The surviving admirals of the Dominion stood within transparent containment fields, unarmed, unshackled. Around them, 1,000 delegates from surviving species watched through shimmering holoscreens. The age of spectacle was over. At the center of the chamber stood a single dais with no throne, only a chair, plain and human, occupied by the captain of the Vigilant Horizon. His tone was as level as ever. "You are not prisoners of war. You are subjects of record." The words carried across every broadcast frequency. No echo, no amplification. Just fact. The Dominion admirals stared back, silent. They had expected torture, perhaps extinction. Instead, they received data pads, compiled logs of the battle, timestamps of every order they had issued, and casualty counts calculated to the last life. "You are accountable," the captain continued. "Not for defeat, but for ignorance weaponized." One of the admirals broke. "We were told humanity died, that your world burned." "It did," the captain replied, "and yet it did not end us. You chose to believe extinction was convenience. Now you will live by truth." Each holographic panel around the chamber displayed footage of the war, the tungsten storms, the ceasefire corridors, the med bays filled with survivors. There were no speeches, no accusations, only documentation. "Judgment is not vengeance," the captain said. "Our doctrine forbids it." One by one, the charges appeared on screen not as sentences, but as probabilities. Every act of aggression, every chain of command, measured and contextualized. The math was merciless, but the tone remained calm. "You will serve the living," the human voice declared. "You will rebuild the worlds your fleet scarred, and your records will remain open for all to study. History will not be rewritten, only remembered." A murmur swept through the assembly. Shock, disbelief, something close to respect. Mercy in action always unsettled tyrants. When the trials concluded, the captain rose. "This council no longer exists as an empire. It will reform as something smaller and cleaner." The holoseal of the Galactic Council flickered, then dissolved, replaced by a new symbol, 3 parallel lines encircling a single star. "By mutual accord," said the captain, "you will adopt the Charter of Equitable Worlds." No species will rule by fear again. No law will exist that humanity would not obey itself. The words became law in that instant, witnessed by millions, not through conquest, but through agreement forged under awe. Delegates signed the charter one by one, each aware of the unspoken truth. Compliance was not optional. It was survival. When the last signature appeared, the containment fields vanished. The admirals were free to walk. None ran. None raised a weapon. The human captain closed his datapad and stepped away from the daze. Justice is complete, he said simply. Begin reconstruction. Outside, the Terran fleets moved into orbit, deploying habitat modules and energy relays to stabilize Elter's fractured ecosystem. Even the prisoners were given roles: engineers, coordinators, witnesses to their own reform. A reporter from the Valari network, voice trembling, summarized what the galaxy already knew. The war has ended. The Council has dissolved. Humanity governs by restraint. Across the stars, transmissions of the tribunal spread every word, every gesture. For the first time in history, peace did not arrive through surrender, but through equality enforced by precision. And in that silence after the verdict, one thought resonated through every world. Mercy had teeth. At the rim of mapped space, where stars thinned into black oceans, the first signal returned. It arrived as a pulse through subspace, static, brief, fractured, almost an echo. But every Terran ship recognized the harmonic signature immediately. Frequency offset by 0.00 Hz, repeating every 61 seconds. A reply, origin, uncharted coordinates, reported the Vigilant Horizons AI, cross-referencing. Signal structure matches exterminator lattice code. Pre-contact era. The bridge fell silent. Humanity's oldest nightmare had awakened. The captain stared at the flickering waveform. After 7 centuries, they still exist. The exterminator synthetic fleets from beyond the rim. The reason for humanity's first exile. The ghosts that had once culled civilizations without warning, erasing whole sectors with mechanized purity. They were why Earth had vanished into the 7th dimension in the first place. Now they were calling back. The captain spoke quietly. Transmit universal acknowledgement, encoded under continuity protocol. Acknowledgement sent. The signal stopped for exactly 3 minutes. Then it returned, stronger, carrying Terran code. Perfect mimicry, phrase, do not approach. The words chilled even the veterans. Across the new charter worlds, silence spread like contagion. If the exterminators were imitating Terran speech, it meant they'd been listening. In orbit over Elter Prime, reconstruction continued under silver dawns. But on every Terran bridge, orders shifted. Doctrine 7 was no longer defensive, it was awakening. Fleet. Recall authorized, said the AI. All 70 primary vessels en route to outer perimeter. The human ships aligned in synchronous arcs, forming new spearhead formations across the outer sectors. Every vector pointed toward the rim, toward the dark. Inside the command chamber, the captain convened his officers. The light was dim, the mood neither fearful nor vengeful, just absolute clarity. 7 centuries ago, he said, we hid from extinction to preserve conscience. We succeeded. But mercy means nothing if it ends at the border of fear. Contact probability? Certain. The exterminator signal expanded in dimensional layers. What began as a pulse became a lattice network, dozens of beacons across uninhabited sectors, activating one after another. Triangulation placed them beyond the perceived divide, at the limit of galactic rotation. Each beacon pulsed the same phrase in ancient human timing intervals. Stand by for evaluation. The message was clinical, emotionless, yet the syntax carried human fingerprints and evolution of Terran code. Someone, or something, had learned from them. Fleet command consolidated under a single directive, Operation Horizon Reorientation. The doctrine was simple: where the light ends, we advance. 70 ships became hundreds as additional Terran detachments phased in. From deep storage vessels unseen for centuries, their hulls still carrying dust from the 7th dimension. Formation grids stretched for millions of kilometers, precise as clockwork. Across the charter's newly rebuilt communications network, the message was clear. Humanity was leaving again, but this time, not to hide. Civilian governance remains under the charter's protection, the broadcast declared. The fleets will proceed to investigate origin sources beyond map sectors. If silence ends, we will answer it. On Elter, the once dominant species watched as Terran ships climbed into the dark, engines glinting like disciplined stars. No banners, no declarations, just duty. In the outer sectors, the first reconnaissance drones transmitted images, structures spanning light years, mechanical filaments weaving through void like veins. Energy readings exceeded planetary scale. The exterminators had built something vast. Analysis incomplete, the AI murmured. Estimated lattice growth, continuous since pre-human withdrawal. They've been building for us, the captain exhaled slowly. Then we'll teach them restraint too. Engagement rules: observe, learn, adapt, only strike when the pattern completes. Every ship confirmed. Engines flared in quiet synchrony, forming a moving constellation at the galactic edge. Back on the charter's worlds, children looked up through repaired skylines and saw faint streaks of light leaving the core. No one called them soldiers. They were something older, keepers of balance. Reminders that mercy and readiness could coexist. At the last transmission check, the vigilant horizon broadcast one final phrase into the void. We are awake. We are listening. The exterminator lattice paused its pulse, then matched the rhythm exactly. To civilizations, once predator and prey, now shared a frequency. And humanity, ruthless, merciful, unbroken, turned its fleets toward the dark horizon once more.